Fortnite just launched their new OG season and we have so much to talk about. I want to talk about all the OG weapons we're getting, including 200 pumping returning to the game. I want to talk about which weapons we're going to get in future updates as well, because we are getting new updates every 4 days, bringing us into new OG seasons. I also want to talk about the map and how the map is going to change over the future weeks. We're also launching with multiple tournaments starting in just 3 days from now. We have over 51 in-game tournaments just this season. There's also a whole bunch of other crazes I want to talk about, so let's jump into it. Let's kick off talking about the loot pool. We've gone back in time to chapter 1 season 5, and along with it a whole bunch of OG weapons from that meta. So we have regular pump shotguns, regular assault rifles, the tac shotgun, we have chug jugs, riftigos, boogie bombs, all that fun stuff. Now I know you're thinking, does the pump shotgun 200 pump? And the answer is yes, but only at gold rarity. This is a chapter 2 or a late chapter 2 pump, so it doesn't 200 pump at the early rarities like we had in those OG shotguns. Again, this is new Fortnite in an old meta, so a lot of the weapons and guns have been balanced. We don't have 2x headshots and a lot of those things you can expect. You can't double pump and we don't have siphon. But I do want to mention how these mini seasons are going to work. So we've gone back to chapter 1 season 5 and a whole bunch of weapons from that meta, but we are going to be going through the seasons incredibly quickly. On the 9th, which is only 5 days away now, we're going to go back to season 6. On the 16th, we're going back to season 7 and 8, and on the 23rd, we're going back to season 9 and 10. So we are going through these metas very quickly, but Fortnite specifically mentioned that going back in time season by season, some of the unvaulted gear in each update will remain for that update, be in more than one update, or stay for the rest of Fortnite OG. So don't expect the weapons to be exactly like those seasons we're going back to. And if there's an item you really liked in one of the earlier seasons, don't worry, it might carry through over into the other seasons. I'm super excited to see some of these items return. Like I said, we already have damage traps back in the game for the first time in so long. We're kicking off with the shopping cart and the ATK, but in the next season we have one of my favorite shotguns ever. We have the double barrel coming back. We're going to see the return of the porta fort. We are then going to obviously see the quad crasher. We can now do hoverboard trick shots. The season after that, we're going to see flint knocks, miniguns. We got glider redeploy. We got the planes coming back. Then in season 9 and 10, we're going to have a whole bunch of crazy explosives and weapons. We're going to have the junk rift. We're going to have the storm flip, the heavy sniper coming back in. So this season is going to move very quickly, and we're going to have a lot of item changes. I know what you're thinking, while we're moving through these updates really quickly, what does that mean for the map? So we've gone back to the chapter 1 season 5 map, and when these updates change, the map will be changing as well, but nowhere near as much as the loot pool. This will be one of the more letdowns of the season for a lot of people. A lot of people are hoping that we were going to go through the maps incredibly quickly. We're going to go all the way back to chapter 1 season 5, and then, you know, a week was going to go by and we're going to go into Lazy Lagoon, and then the week after that we're going to get us to go to Mega Mall. Not quite. Here are the 4 different stages of the maps we're going to go to. If you go from stage 1 to stage 2, the main change is the fact that we're going to have Kevin the Cube up here over Loot Lake, which will be really nostalgic and fun. The map after that, we're going to get the different snow biome in the bottom left. We're going to have the Frosty Flights area, and then the update after that, we're going to get the meatball in the sky, which is the meteor, which I think is going to have something to do with the storyline, because that seems like a very minimal change to have even happen in the final week. But if you're hoping to go Lazy Lagoon, the volcano, or Mega Mall, we are not going to be getting them in this OG season, unfortunately. Speaking of the map, it is not exactly like chapter 1 season 5. We do still have zero builds in this season, including a whole bunch of zero build tournaments, which again I'll talk about in a little bit, but they had to make the map more zero build friendly. So that means obviously adding a bunch of zip lines around the map, but potentially even more interesting for me, especially for competitive and those of you guys who really want to get more wins this season, they've added a bunch of permanent rifts around the map to areas that once you get in, you can't get out without them. So if you're on the edge of the map now, there's so many permanent rifts that you can use to rotate around. There's even permanent rifts in the basement of Salty Springs, because once you break down in there, if you don't have builds, you can't get out, so you can now rift out. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this plays out for the meta, especially in competitive, because there's absolute god mobility just all over the map now in builds and no builds. I know that's a lot of changes, but don't worry, it still has the OG vibe. We aren't going back to the engine that ran Fortnite during chapter 1, but they've done a really good job of making these like remastered chapter 1 graphics. It's not quite chapter 1, but honestly, I love the look and feel of it. All of the models look the same and the colors are really vibrant and beautiful, but they're just a little bit different. But I honestly think they're a little bit cleaner. I really like the colors and graphics they're going with for this throwback season. There are a bunch of other changes I wanted to talk about in case case you guys missed it as well, there are no more augments in the game. The OG vending machines are back, so the vending machines that take material and rotate through which weapon you can buy. We don't have 100% chest spawns back in the game, but leakers have revealed that it's an 80% or more chance of your chest spawning, so pretty solid. It looks like they've taken gold out of the game. Material is still capped at 500, not 1000, but you do still get Cypher material on eliminations. You'll get 50 of each build type. You will not get regular health and shield Siphon, even in competitive. It really does look like Siphon is just gone for the game, whether you wanted to or not. There is no swimming like I mentioned earlier, and one of my favorite changes, the shop is back to the OG item shop. If you go to it, it's so clean, it's so minimal. I absolutely love it. I really hope we stick to this item shop forever, even though I know next chapter we probably won't. Now, let's talk about tournaments. We had a whole bunch of tournaments announced, and already we are kicking off this season with a bunch of them. You guys have to be ready and paying attention because they're kicking off with our first round of tournaments on November 5th. These new tournaments they announced are called skirmishes. Basically, they're going to be a bunch of zero build and builds, duo and squad tournaments. There is currently 39 of them across all different regions. They are named after different content creators, and the bigger regions got more of them than smaller regions. So EU has 12, for example, and OC only has 3. Now, but I know what you're saying. Before you freak out about it being unfair, these aren't region locked as far as I can see. Well, they are region locked, but they're different events, because since like Lachlan's tournament is one event, a Mars tournament is a different event, they're technically not region locked, because yeah, you can play it on any region, but it's only on one region. So just play it on that region. I'm sorry if that's me saying region a lot. I hope that made sense. Basically, if you want to play one of these skirmishes, just play it. It doesn't matter if it's not in your region. Obviously, with a lot of them being zero builds, hopefully you guys can make some good money and have some fun playing on higher ping, because it won't really matter. And like I said, there are 39 of these, and they're kicking off on the 5th, 6th, 17th, 18th, and 19th. But that isn't it. We have more tournaments than that as well. We have the solo victory build cups coming back and the duo no build victory cups coming back. There are 6 of those each. That means there are 12 individual victory tournaments this season as well. Some of these are happening very, very often. For example, solo victory builds we have on November 13th and November 15th, only a few days apart. They are running on at the same time again, but they each have their own region lock. So just like last season, if you want to say you're an NA player and you want to play the solo victory cup on NA for the ping, and then you want to play EU zero builds, you can do that. So there are now currently already 51 in-game tournaments, and there could still be more being announced in the future. I know you're thinking, how are you going to play in these tournaments? We do still have ranked. We don't have arena. Ranked is still in the game. You will need to get different ranks to play in these tournaments, but again, it's pretty simple if you're any competitive player as usual. But there are new tournaments based on your ranked as well. They have new ranked divisional cups, just like the old divisional cups. If you remember them way back, you're versing other players of your rank, but the rewards are gliders. There's no money on the line, but you verse players of your rank, and the higher rank you get, the better version of your glider you'll end up with at the end of the season. They look like a little bit of fun. You can play them as solos, duos, or squads. You can even do them as fills if you're playing in squads. So it should be interesting. It should be a bit of fun. Maybe some pros can make some content out of it. Maybe you guys can improve and try and find some teammates, but it's not really going to be like a premier competitive event of the season when we have so many prize money tournaments. Now, as far as the competitive meta, not all of the items that are going into the regular loot pool are going to go into competitive. There is a whole bunch taken out. Basically anything that is an explosive, grenade launchers, rocket launchers, quad launchers, grenades, shockwave grenades, proximity grenade launcher, remote explosives, airstrike, junk rift, storm flick, and the X4 storming. Now, they will add other things into this potentially that will still be vaulted from competitive. This is just the list right now. Honestly, personally, I was actually kind of hoping all this craziness would go into competitive. I really wanted an OG competitive season that was just completely wild and wacky, but I mean, a lot of the comp fans will be happier knowing they're not just going to be friggin' proximity grenade launched, nade stacked, getting quad launched. So at the end of the day, I get it. Across the board, I'm super excited for this season. Knowing there's this many tournaments, I'm going to be going crazy with the watch parties on my Twitch channel. As always, twitch.tv/Aussie Antics. Come check me out. I'm also going to be playing this season a whole bunch. Is looking incredibly fun, but I hope you guys enjoy it. If you guys buy the battle pass or any cosmetics, use code Aussie, and I'll see you in the next one.